Here. Hey everyone, Stroke Lines here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and Jackie Stuck here from Copenhagen, Denmark.
So we were just chatting, kind of letting a few more people flow in, and then we got into an interesting conversation about driving Chrome and using Geek Dude's Chrome class. And Dimitri had mentioned he had tried using it with driving Edge, and unfortunately, if Chrome is open, it will default to using Chrome, and so that's where we're talking about using profiles. And then I just realized, while Jackie started expounding on something, I realized we hadn't recorded yet. I didn't want people that watch this later to miss it. So sorry for cutting me off, Jackie. Why don't you go ahead and keep going?
Yeah, and I probably won't elaborate on everything, but Dimitri, he said Geek Dude's Chrome HK tutorials were interesting. So that's how we kind of started. So the ones that you, Joe, did with Geek Dude. And then you said, Joe, talked about the one we made where I showed a few edits you could do to the class to make it work with Edge if Edge is running with the Chromium backend, right? And we did some quick edits, and I had managed to make it work. And Dimitri had tested something along those lines, and apparently if Chrome is not running, it works. But if Chrome is running, it will connect to Chrome. At least that's how I interpret what he's saying. And that's probably because the edits that I made to make it work were quick and easy, or whatever you call that. You should probably look into it a bit more if you wanted to make that really work correctly. But the interesting part was just that you can actually run or control Edge if you had the need. And the last thing I was saying just before we started the recording was that Dimitri said, but why use Edge if you have Chrome? And that might be right. But at some places like my company, you might not have Chrome.
Or admin rights.
And you certainly don't have admin rights. So, but you might have the ability to at least run Edge in debug mode. So that would be a thing, but I couldn't just install something that wasn't already on the machine. So yeah.
Hey Jackie, it's kind of funny. I would say let me hold off on it, but I have a question for you and for anyone else here. I was helping someone over the weekend, which I don't normally end up writing code, but we just started talking on he was emailing me stuff. Anyway, he has a work computer, and he doesn't have admin rights, and he can't install anything, and he can't do anything. I got it to where we couldn't install Site. We because Studio, is an AHK file. We were able to, have basically the executable drag Studio on top of it and launch Studio. However, I couldn't figure out a way to make Studio, or any editor for that matter, right, the default editor, because we can't edit the registry. Do you have any ideas of? I Googled the forum and I saw one about, hey, you can put this in your script, and then I think it was like when you launch it, it will pull up and you can tell it which one to pull up. But any ideas on how you could actually affect
the first thing that comes to mind, and I might not have listened well enough to know if that's something, but when you right click a thing and say open with,
yeah, you can't pick and choose. It just
okay. So if you press shift and right click on it, you don't get the open with thingy.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, well, I honestly I can't say for certain if you didn't get it at all. All I know is we couldn't navigate to a given program, especially one that wasn't quote unquote installed. That's what it was, right? We couldn't.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen a situation where you can't do that, but apparently Windows also have the ability in not the control panel, it's not called that anymore, but where you can actually find the file and say how you want to open it.
I tried looking for that and tried adjusting it, and it wouldn't. Again, it only let you pick like from installed programs.
Okay, so because you actually couldn't go in and get a file selector, so you couldn't just move around
I
on your
can't
machine.
navigate to an executable. Yeah. Now,
No.
Dimitri said, which I think he's right in the sense of we'd have to have one script running, but we could have that one script running, say, when I hit Control Alt E or whatever, go get the path of the file I'm looking at and push it to, the AutoHotkey whatever editor you want, right? Um, it just, it was like without being able to edit the registry, yeah, how can you affect the default editor? I wasn't sure.
No, that's a good question. Where again, as you said, if you can't edit the registry, if the user simply doesn't have that ability, then you can't, because that's how you set the default editor.
Right.
Those two things go along, right? It's how the shell knows which exit to try and launch that file extensions with, and that's something you do in the registry. And the workaround would be having a bash script or whatever, PowerShell or AutoHotkey or whatever continuously running,
Right.
or having made a hotkey that will just append the exit before it, or make shortcuts that has the file as a parameter. But again, you won't make it into a default editor.
Right.
You can make things that will open it,
Right.
but not that will open it by you double clicking the file.
Yeah. Well, and that was, in my main script, I have Control Alt E it runs the edit command, which means that will pull it up. But the problem is, it'll pull it up in your quote unquote default editor, which is Notepad. Windows assumes is Notepad because no one's told it anything. And so that was like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way to interrupt the edit command and actually give it a path. Would that be possible?
If it thinks the default editor is Notepad, maybe you could delete Notepad and place Studio's exit there, called Notepad exit. Who knows? But
Yeah.
the workarounds you could try are many.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, without being able to edit the registry, you couldn't really set the default editor, but because that's how that's done.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks. I thought that was it was an interesting thing I got stuck on. And at the time I was just trying to help them code, so I didn't want to dive deep into it, but it is one that I know some people at work, you're screwed. And it's great that we can still use AutoHotkey even if you're not an admin, right? A lot of people don't understand. You don't have to install it, right? You can run it from a thumb drive. You don't even have to put it on your computer. But yeah. Okay.
But yeah, let's say you had the File Explorer open and you had an AutoHotkey script. You could probably make something listen for the Explorer window being open, file being selected, double click and enter, or whatever 2-3 things you can think of that will normally launch something, and then just capture that event and make something different happen. But again, it only really makes sense if the file that's selected is an AHK file, as an example. But you can use COM to know which file was clicked, which file is under the mouse, so within reason, you could hook into that event, or hooking into it is too much, but you could install a middleman, so to speak.
Yeah, because the other one, and I saw what Dimitri wrote here too, but it gets back to also, Jonathan, that's where we looked at that. And again, because it's not installed, we couldn't select something that wasn't in the list, which is only installed programs, or maybe Windows programs as well. But the other solutions we're talking about, at least some of them are talking about, well, you'd have to be on the file in Explorer. Hey, if I'm there, I might as well just drag the darn thing onto, Studio in the first place, right? It's for me, like I said, I love to be able to just hit a hotkey or right click the icon in the system tray and say edit. And that's, where it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks that you can't just do that when it's not in the default editor. And I had hopefully, so let's get going. We don't have a lot, but I do have another question for you, Jackie, but let's go ahead and get into this. And if no one else has stuff, think Dale mentioned he has some stuff to possibly share, but I had another one I was working on that I got it sort of working, but I'd love your thoughts on how would we approach this. So let's go ahead and get going. Crazy enough, 48th webinar. Yeah, I can't believe when we hit 50, I'll feel really old. Let's get moving. So there's 43 registrants. Again, I think everyone here knows you start off muted, but you can either unmute yourself to talk. Just try to leave yourself muted on average, because it's amazing how much background noise will happen that you don't realize is going to be there. And we can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself if you have a specific question. But yeah, just try to keep yourself muted in general. Here are a couple podcasts. This one I thought was this 60-second one, the fixing automate my task. So the automate my task, let me see if I can remember my hotkey for it. That's this tool. And it was laid out differently. And then Maastricht was really busy. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to try to update it. And I'd say like 80-90% of the changes that I want done. And then there were just some that were just too advanced for me, and I just couldn't quite, quote unquote, see it. And so I asked Jackie on a podcast to see if we could update it to make the changes I got stuck on. And Jackie worked through every change. So now it's updated. But it was a really good working session of how to look at stuff and how to figure out where you are, what you want to change, where you want to change it. So it's not about automate my task. It's about if you have code and you're trying to update it, and especially if it's more complex, right? How you can figure out what to do, where you are, and things like that.
Yeah, because looking at Maastricht's code, he's really good and fast, and that also means that his code becomes more compact, and it becomes a bit harder to just look at and immediately know what's going on, because then there's a ternary operator, then it's buried in an object somewhere, then it's a class method that's happening. So yeah, it was a fun session to try and figure out how he had done it and fixing it.
This other one, this podcast, I thought was pretty fun, because we discussed how I think I'm going to say all, maybe it's not all, but the RPA tools that are out there, the really big ones, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, UiPath, right? Those guys, they're GUI tools, right? So you build a GUI and you're programming in a GUI. And so we talked a bit about that and how that can be restrictive. And I think if I remember correctly, we also talked about just the general lack of understanding of how programming, how years ago when Jackie and I both were, starting off like in working in big companies, macros were a thing, like Excel macros, people knew about them and would use them and stuff. And then I don't know why, but just the world changed and people stopped even knowing they're a thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was in a meeting the other day about RPA in my own company, and it was filled with leaders, whatever you would call those, managers, and she was explaining some stuff about what it does, and they were asking questions that some of them were okay, but some of them was also like, and you use Excel every day? Are you sure you don't know the answer to this?
Yeah.
And apparently they didn't.
So Jackie, let me be a little off topic here. So when I was at TI, and the guy since, I don't want to call it retired, but he's left, he's doing his own thing, but he was a manager there basically of TI.com, right? Which gets, millions of hits, like, I think a day, very big website. And I'd be in meetings with him where there'd be, like you said, like 7 or 8 senior people, and he'd be explaining a concept. And he's like, we're doing this, and this is what we're going to do in here. And then they would propose this like insight of an idea. And it was so funny because I'm sitting there going, what planet are these people on? Like, it makes, and I told him later, I'm like, I have so much respect for you because you will sit there and you listen to them as if like they have the most beautiful insight. And he goes, well, we'll look at that. That's interesting. And he would never say like, oh my God. But it was so funny because I look at him and I'm like, wow, he does like me. You could read me like a book, right? I'd be like, hello. So yeah, it's crazy because again, well, we talked, and I forget which podcast it was. I think we talked about RPA in general. I think we went into it originally. When you go to decide you should do it, that's a strategy, right? That's the higher people up have to understand we should be doing this, it's that. And then thankfully when you actually want to talk about implementing it, you need to talk to the employees. And that's one of the major reasons why, right? Those senior people up, they're even worse off than the people doing the work. They're so detached, they don't understand, anything So that was a fun discussion.
Yeah, it sure was.
I'm happy to report that my intermediate course was finally released on Udemy. It did really well for the first month. Actually, like in the first day, I sold more in that day than the other 2 courses for that month combined. So that was impressive. And I hope you guys like it. I think I have a shot here on the next page, but go check it out. On my site, if you look up, I think it's over here, if you go to the Udemy, that always has the biggest discount coupons. And if you use those links, I get 97% of the money instead of like 30% of the money. And then I'm doing usually like bi-weekly updates of just stuff that I've done. And again, I'm going to extend this. So I'm going to do another round I'm going to give away 10 intermediate courses, on June 31st, whoever signed up for my newsletter. So actually, you know what? And here, let me even demonstrate. Let me see. Where's the chat? I don't know. Can you see this, Jackie?
No? I see something on your screen.
Oh, okay. Well, you can't see my chat's there. So this is quick access pop-up, and I have links to, all of my stuff, in which you didn't see it, but now you'll see it in the chat.
So we saw it in there because you're showing it on your screen.
Yeah. So, and also like here, I put, all my playlists. So all of these, and so it's just an example of how, using AutoHotkey, and granted I'm using QAP, which is built on AutoHotkey, but I have a nice GUI with links that I like to, have at my tips of my fingers, and I don't have to remember anything. I have them structured, and it's so easy to build in QAP. By the way, and maybe when GeekDude, if anyone's interested, bring this back up. GeekDude has a class for making, I think it's a class, might be functions, but on making menus. And last week I had another call with him just on the side. We were just chit-chatting, and he showed me this class for building menus, and it was pretty slick. It was if QAP wasn't a thing, I would absolutely be using that thing for building my menus and structures and stuff. So all right, so let's keep going. Oops, if I go the right way. Again, this is, I'm not going to focus on this, but this is the stuff I cover in that intermediate Udemy course. Some people would say this still isn't intermediate stuff. And generally speaking, one thing I'd like to say is I'm not teaching you, quote unquote, how to program. I'm teaching you like the functionality of AutoHotkey, right? I'm not getting into design and here's how you should be, here's how you write a more efficient way to use objects and to nest stuff. I don't know that stuff. That's not me. But this is a lot of the stuff in AutoHotkey and specific commands and stuff. So the biggest thing I say with the Udemy courses is, and also Jack's blog, Jack's AutoHotkey.
Jack Dunning. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Both of our stuff, I'd say, is we give you a structure, right? My Udemy course, it lays out, hey, start here and work through this stuff. And honestly, I think that's the biggest reason to say to work through the Udemy stuff is it makes it a clear path to where you're learning specific things. That's what I honestly offer. I think I'm offering a lot of.
Yeah, right. But I still think it's okay to call it an intermediate AutoHotkey course because it's not an intermediate programming course.
Yeah, right.
So,
right. Yeah, and hopefully I'll get around to making an advanced one, which then we'll have GUIs and some other stuff, and that's where I'll probably bring Maestria on to either teach me the specific stuff right before I do it, or to give the actual classes. But anyway, yeah, I'm just not a GUI person. And then, all right, so this one, speaking of which, So here is I'm going to do an example, a live example of this. So I know a lot of people go to my Automator site, and on it, you'll see examples of code where I post it. And WordPress was taking the entire code when it was the code I shared and shoving it into one flat line, and it was getting all screwed up. Then I'd go fix it, and then it would just suddenly be screwed up again, and it was really annoying. And then I happened to mention to Jackie, and Jackie, you said you thought it was, you had either heard or had seen stuff about it replacing that line return.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't remember when I read about it, but it's a matter of stuff that programming languages just handle line feeds and line breaks and line returns differently. And if you have seen it in AutoHotkey, you might have seen the what's it called?
The
The
tick mark.
strange little thing, the
Yeah.
tick mark N, tick mark R, or tick mark R, tick mark N, just to kind of say it's a line return and then it's a new line. Those are those two set between each other, and not all languages do that the same way. Some only have the tick mark N. A lot of people are doing that in their AutoHotkey code, and
Yeah, and that's it's a Linux thing too, right? Is that I think Linux
yeah,
uses
and
this.
there might be a few versions of one before the other or the other way around, or only one or only
Right.
the other, and Redx can capture some versions using the /v as a virtual line break and whatever. There's lots of different ways, and my idea here was just, apparently it made your multi-line text into a single line. So something was up with the way you had your line returns.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, so this tick mark R, that is the line return character for AutoHotkey, because you'll see it in other code. Often in other languages, it's the /R, right, and /N, and I know there's other ways too. But and this is the tick mark N is the new line feed, which seems weird because you'd think it'd be before the R, but this is what you see at the end of. Actually, you know what? Let me add some more text. And now in site, view end of line. Oh, there, yeah. So here's how site displays them, right? But that's the line return and then line feed here, and that's why I was demonstrating them up there, right? So that's what we're talking about. So anyway, that was a long story, but it's good knowledge, right? That was happening on my post, and I'd go fix it, and then even if I didn't change anything, they were reverting back to being flattened. So I knew, and Maestreath had mentioned at one point that he knew of this thing called a gist on GitHub, which is, it's not really a temporary, I don't know how to really properly describe it. It's not a temporary thing because it stays there, but it's also not put into your, what are the, your yeah. So I knew, so he had told me about it, but it was going to be manual. I'd have to go over there and create it and then come back here and copy it. And I'm like, you know what? It's more work than I want to do. And then later I'm like, well, wait a minute, maybe we can create that with an API call. And I knew in HK Studio, Maestreath had solved with Studio, he can push it to GitHub automatically updates. And so I said, hey, let me get him on Zoom here. And I said, is this something you could, do easily to adapt it and push a gist? She's like, well, let me know. I'm sorry. Let me see. And so in about 20 minutes, he adapted some code to, create the gist in GitHub. And so I was set, and then I actually wrapped it all to make it pretty. So let me do a little demo here. And I'm actually going to do it, ironically enough, with the, gist. Oh, I need to, do I have it open? Which actually, I don't even know what it's called. Let me launch it. So it's going to come up with something. Oh, come on. It's looking for some code selected. Oh, it is. All right. Let me, I'm going to edit it. So we get to that one. There we go. So this is the actual code. I did want to point out, I've hidden my token. So my token's in a local file. That way I don't have to worry about sharing that. But so if you're going to apply this code, you got to get your own token to do this. Then you'd shove it in here, either use it any read or just shove it in here if you're not going to be sharing it. And so it basically, I'm just sending, copy of the stuff to the clipboard. Here I'm activating it and getting the name of the file, and that just saves me one step, which you'll see in a second. It creates a GUI, basically makes it visible, and then we shove it in with this API call. And this is the thing, I love API calls. Shove it in. It looks like it's where is our actual call here? Data description send. Parse. He's parsing it. I'm trying to see where. Oh, it is send is the thing. Token. Oh, it's a post request. There we go. So it is a post request. Anyway, watch our webinar on APIs. So now let's go. I'm going to highlight it all. And now, actually, you know what? I see I have two things already open here. So let me exit out of them just to make sure here. There we go. All right, now I'm going to highlight it all, and I'm going to hit the apps key G. Now it comes up with this window because I have to give it a name, and so that's why I had it go read the file name I'm in, because 9 out of 10 times that's probably what I want to name the file. And I have a little reminder here: don't add it .ahk. Well, that's also why I parsed it and didn't get it here. And the description would be API call to push. Just fair enough. Now I'm going to hit my button, and down here, where's the drum roll? There we go. So I chose to bring back two things. This is what I would put on my website inside my HTML tags. However, this, which is what I'll just do the whole thing. This is why I put the whole thing there, right? I'm going to put that in the chat. That you can click the link, and that will bring you up to that post. And so here we have the file name, here's the description I typed, and then here's the code, and then anyone can get it. And it looks, whether it's here or it's on my site, it actually has the IntelliSense, I guess you still call it, with the color encoding. So I was stoked because a lot of these little ones I've been doing lately, I'm not creating posts on my site, but I'd want to put them in the description in in YouTube, because I want to share the code. However, in the description part of YouTube, you can't have brackets, open and close brackets, or the greater than less than signs. And there might be some other codes, characters. So this is a way now I can just paste this link that I just put in the chat, and it took me like a second, right? So it's another great example of like, simplify your life, right? I mean, I was doing this, especially when I'm making these videos, I'll make a bunch of them in a row, and I was doing it, 10 times a day, and now it's blink, I'm done.
It's great. It is.
Yeah. So, whoa, and that's the end of what we have. So, does anybody here, and Dale, including you, I see you there. Do you have stuff ready to share now? Do you have a question? Do you care about that? Do you want to bring up something? You stuck on something?
I'm here.
Hey, Dale.
Hello. I'm not stuck in anything, but
okay, yeah, let's see it or hear it.
You start getting into this world, like you were just saying, you post something 10 times a day. You go, boy, I'm doing this over and over.
Right.
There's got to be a way to automate that or something. And
absolutely. Amen.
That's where I am. So I'll share my screen. I think this guy.
Yeah, I've been I went through all my main script, and then I have my menus from working at TI, and so I've been making videos on that, which will be coming out in the next 2 weeks. And it's just fun because I had automated so much of my job. It's great to go back and look at all the little things I had automated.
I don't even think these keyboards are made anymore, but I came across a couple of them, and I had them around my house, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try out using them. And they have these extra keys, like above numlock is a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Above like insert, and there is you can adjust the volume, mute, and you see there's a whole top row of extra keys.
Yeah, I have those on my keyboard. Yeah, the 4000's the one I have, the keyboard. But yeah.
Oh, is yours wireless?
No, I don't want wireless.
Yeah, I didn't either. So this is from like the user manual or something, and it kind of gives a description about it. So there's a lot of extra keys.
Hey, and it's great for Vista. Look over on the left.
Oh, up here with Windows
No, on the
Vista.
left. Well, it's up there too, but on the bottom left, there's like a,
Oh,
in the middle, up a little higher.
yeah, you can
oh,
see how
great
long
for Vista.
these have been around. System requirements. Vista or
Windows Vista, yeah.
What was that, Jackie?
Yeah, it's also just Windows Vista. It's right there, the logo.
Yeah.
But well, they say that because there's a software piece for it.
Right.
Which is this. Let me get rid of the background stuff. So when you press the star key, which is right over here, it loads the software that lets you change the definition of them.
I have that star key too. I didn't. You know, I honestly never noticed that star key.
So you see you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left of star?
Yes, I do. Well,
Do you have those programmed?
No. No, I did when I was at TI, but I don't anymore.
Oh. Well, and they could be programmed to like anything.
Right.
I'll kind of show that.
Do you have, let me, I don't know if I got enough cord here. In the middle of my keyboard, do you have this thing? This is it's a scroll up and down. And at one point, I actually programmed that, which was interesting.
Don't have that.
But so I think the main point is, look, your keyboard can have a lot of extra keys, right? And you can assign them things often.
Right.
Even if you don't have the original software. Yeah.
And something I do a lot in my work is do a Word document and then save it as PDF. And I had done Control-Alt-P in like Word. I don't know if people have known this in Word. You could either use random to do a couple of paragraphs. Oh, I did the lorem ipsum as well. So if you just save this, I'll just save it here. And so I just press my key 5 and oops. And this, it's just showing it. I use Sumatra as my PDF viewer. And so,
cool.
Instead of like being in Word, what's it, file and then save as?
Yeah.
Where is it? And
I think I shared a video on it the other day. I would have text visible in Word and I didn't want the spell check on. And so the settings for that are really buried. And so I wrote a script to turn off that, spelling and grammar checking on a given document. And that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, now, Dale, let me ask you this. In the Word thing, did you Google how to do it like with COM, or did you use like the macro recorder in Word?
Well, I'll make you groan. I do it with keystrokes.
Okay.
I'm a keystroke.
If it's reliable, and if you want, we could probably walk through and, even adapt it to COM, right? But and the reason why I brought it up was Excel, Word, and PowerPoint have macro recorders, right? So you can turn on the macro recorder, do your actions, stop the macro recorder, look at your code. Now it's VBA code, but more often than not, it's very easy to adapt that to AutoHotkey's COM.
Yep. I guess it's like learning a lot of things. It's doing that first one or two, and then you get rolling. So, well, I don't know what speed it'll be, but if I do, so I had Control-Alt-P to do a new PDF, and then Control-Alt-Shift-P to overwrite it. Maybe, I don't know if it'll be too fast. I guess it went too fast. Because if you try to write to an existing file, it pops up a window saying, hey, this exists. Do you want to overwrite it or not? So what I did is I just put the code in an AutoHotkey file, and I call that. I was going to go down these. So when you hover over, so this is the software to program the keyboard. The key up above turns blue. So you see the top left key is blue.
Yeah.
Actually, I was able to figure out the scan key for that, and I programmed it to be my screensaver. So when I press screensaver, one key, that's my thing. So they say disable, but it does that. Web home, I custom program that to send an email immediately. I have a rule in my Outlook to wait a minute before sending email, because so often you press send and you go, oh, I wish I'd done this or something. So if I want something to go right away, I hit that key. Otherwise, it does. Web home. I think that. Oh, that was Adam. Where are we going? Pictures. Oh, it's going down the left side. Sorry. So documents. Oh, so if you click on this, you could see it's a little hard to use this app. So you can select what it does. I think if you click here, I guess this was an option to take a screen clipping. So when I press that one, it brings up the Windows 10 clipper tool, which I don't really use, but I haven't reprogrammed it. Pictures, I don't know. I go to that. So that's mail. That's that one.
Yeah, and in the AutoHotkey help, I think it's under the hotkeys. Is that right, Jackie? That they teach you how, if you don't know what key your either keyboard or your mouse is, you can use this thing and then press the button and it will show you what Windows detected. Does that sound right?
Yeah. What the scan code or the virtual key code of whatever key you pressed was.
Yep.
And then you could use that.
You open it, your file.
Yeah, then you go to view and then you say.
I think you just press the keys now, right?
I think
I believe you actually say key history. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I just
in view,
I'll hit my screensaver one, and then did it refresh?
No, if you go in view and actually click on key history.
Right.
Oh, okay.
There you'll be able to see what's going on.
Yeah, so this is that upper left key, I believe. I'll hit it again. My screensaver came on, and you say refresh. So it's, one.
Yeah, that's the launch
1.6C.
mail. Yeah. If you made that into your, and the key is actually called launch mail, apparently. So,
yeah, that's the name of it.
But yeah, the scan code is 16C.
However, all keys on the keyboard don't come back with a scan code. So,
And maybe not all of them, but then they might have a virtual key code instead.
Right. And you kind of work around those. So what else did I have?
Yeah, once you get to a point where you've used so many key combinations between shift and control, and actually, who was I talking? I was talking to somebody, and they're like, I do this over and over and over, and I'm like, yeah, you don't want a key combo. If it's something you use that much, it's great having one button, right? One thing you push and it launches whatever. And that's where having a keyboard with a lot of buttons really helps.
Yeah, so these are those 5 up there. So I have it loading some Excel spreadsheets, and this is the PDF convert. So it's, you could just browse and either run some AutoHotkey code or launch a regular file.
Mm-hmm.
Very handy. This brings up that program. This, if you're playing media stuff, you switch tracks or pause it, stop it.
And by the way, Dale, I forget why I did it, but I remapped other keys to those keys. So I had it where I could hit a key combo and it would send the media stop or media play, buttons as well. Because I think it was when I was at work and someone comes up, I didn't want to have music going, and on that keyboard I didn't have the volume keys, And so, but it
Oh,
was,
okay.
and I'm sure there was another programmatical way to do it, but this was just easy, right? I just said, send the volume down. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like in this upper right part here. It's volume up, volume down, or mute over here. So, oh, I got a phone call. You know, you just hit the mute, and instead of like going to the system tray and where's the
Right.
speaker and
Yeah.
or trying to find the volume on your speaker. So there's Zoom over here, which does so you just have a plus and minus. This is you know, Irfan View, which does have them here, but I noticed while I was waiting that it'll also work in PDFs that you can zoom in and out. It's just handy having it there because this way you have to go to the menu and then you have to find Zoom and select around.
So Jackie, this is for you. So I've been trying to learn slowly Photoshop, and I am so annoyed with Photoshop that I can't use my mouse wheel to scroll in and out like you can in virtually every other program. They have keyboard shortcuts for it. So I remapped it to where now I think I use it like Shift or Control, scroll up and down, and it will zoom in and out for me. But it was just funny that I'm like, it's the only one of the few programs that I've run into where scrolling up and down doesn't zoom you in and out.
But it does with
Not
the
on my
right key
computer.
combination.
Yeah, right, yeah.
If you hold down Alt and scroll, then it will zoom in and out.
I tried that. It doesn't on mine.
Yeah. Oh,
Weird.
yeah. That is kind of weird. It does do that. Or I might be over simplifying it because I've done it so much now that it might be combining Alt and Shift.
It was Alt and something else. Yeah, but that was the problem. Was like it for me. I couldn't hold the mouse and the key combos they had, at least not easily. But whatever. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, you know what it was? No, sorry. Okay, so it was. I think it's right. You're right. It's Alt and Shift plus the thing listed is the plus sign or the minus sign, but they don't tell you that it'll work with the mouse too. So I didn't try. It listed when you look at it. It says the Alt and Shift and the plus sign to increase and the minus sign, but it didn't say use or with the mouse. Anyway.
So if can I share? Just. I might not need to share, but it doesn't matter. On mine, it's just Alt. It's Alt and the mouse wheel. That will zoom. It's so yeah. I know I had other keys held down at one point to see and figure it out, but on mine it's just Alt.
Yeah, sorry, Dale.
That's problem. It's how we learn different stuff. You get different ideas.
Dale, the thing you had with saving as a PDF, could you show the code you had for that? Because
sure.
Just as an example with
here and my downloads. Why am I not downloads? Oh, here we go. Utilities, AutoHotkey, scripts. Way. Just list. So when I was doing the, well, bring it up in editor with this hotkey. This one will work whether it's new or not. I don't know. Oh, there we go. So I hit F12. So if I bring that over here, F12. Oh, brings up the save as box.
And it just gives it a name, or did you actually decide what name to give it?
It'll save it with the word name.
Okay, so it's.
So I hit F12, then I do Alt T. Oh, gotta have this highlighted. Well, T, which is takes you to the type box, and then I hit the
Then you
letter
click P.
P,
Yeah.
changes it to PDF, and then I do Alt S, which I think takes you down to save. And so then this pops up. Hey, you already have that file. And
Jackie, do you want to have them record a macro and just take a look at it?
I'd say for saving as a PDF, that's 2 lines of code.
Right. Oh, I know. Well, I know, but it would help. I think it also helps people learn how to adapt. You know, if they don't know the code, how to see it in in VBA, get it in VBA, and then convert it. That's
yeah. It could be interesting seeing how VBA would display him saving it as a PDF. Are you up for that, Dale?
oh yeah, I can't really walk with this yet, so it's
Yeah.
the com road. Obviously, I can do keystrokes.
Yeah. If you go into Word, if you open your Word, or activate your Word window.
Oh, no, it's PDF. Sorry.
And I see that you already have the developer tab showing. So either we help you turn that on at one point, or you did yourself.
Hold on a second.
He's not like you, Jackie. He has to close other windows.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I
always have too many open anyway.
The zoom bar is getting in my way. For some reason.
Zoom bar? I'm not even seeing zoom bar.
It says mute, start
It's got
video.
chocolate and caramel. Oh, sorry.
For some reason, it's the top and not the bottom. Let me just, if I close this. Let me just relaunch it.
Dale, who picked your colors?
I did.
Okay. I'm teasing you. Yeah.
Well, a few months ago, I finally gave up Windows 7 and came to 10, and it was just trying to make the colors like when you hit.
Yeah. It's okay. Let's not get sidetracked.
What's active and not active?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And like which window's active here? Oh, is this it? Like, and it tends to be the Office documents are not active, so I have to, I make it red over here. I've wrestled with that. So
if you put in the content that you had before, the random stuff.
Oh, yeah, I think that was Ipsum. This. 2,4. Oh, helps to put the equal sign. How about this equal? I had that here, filler text. Maybe I'm. Oh. How about that?
There you go.
So I've usually saved it, as a Word document someplace. So it has a name, whatever.
So if you go to the developer tab on there, yeah, and click on macros, the record macro one, yeah, and then just let it call it whatever it wants. Okay to that, and then do the steps that you just did, and the shift whatever. What was it?
Well, I'll call my
F12 first.
You want me to walk it through? Oh, right. F12.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you manually do it or use your hotkeys, right? Because as far as Word's concerned, you're doing the same thing.
Right. So I'm say PDF, we're saying save, we're saying yes.
And that was kind of the steps, right?
Yep.
So if you stop the recording, click on record macros, it's just called. Yeah. and then you select macro 1, yeah, and edit, sure enough. And there you have the things that it's seeing you do. And in this case, it's.
Can you still see it?
Yeah, I can. Is it too small for you, Joe?
Oh,
or?
I lost the screen entirely.
Oh,
when he changed it.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, assume everybody else can if you can. So I think my Zoom is crashing. Sorry. Just go ahead.
You think your Zoom is crashing? Okay. Fair enough. What you're seeing here is one single command. It's using your active document and then it's exporting as fixed format. And that's what it is. And all of the rest of what you're seeing is just parameters for exporting as fixed format. And because Excel knows, or Word knows, all of the constants values, you have the VD export format PDF as an example on there. It's the second line. If you just click on that and keep your mouse there, just click somewhere in it.
Oh, in it, right.
Normally you can just keep your mouse pointer on top of it. Click in a new place and keep your mouse pointer.
Oh, for something to pop up?
Yeah. What's the thing that's actually popping up? I'm seeing something flash when you click.
Yeah, I could exit that. I have a tool that when I drag and release, it copies to my clipboard automatically. And I was having some trouble with it, so I had a little message box popping up briefly.
Fair enough.
I closed it down.
Yeah, so try and click in the VD export format PDF thingy and just keep it there. I'm used to a small tooltip popping up with the value, but okay, it's not happening in this case.
Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's. I can't even touch my computer. Well, I can touch it, but nothing's reacting. Anyway, remember, was it in the last webinar? This exact same thing happened, right? It wasn't displaying the what's it called? The constants when we would right click on it and say view. We were doing something, I think, in Excel, and it wouldn't show it. So it was.
Yeah, you can do what you're saying. You can right click it and say quick info or list constants. And then there it is, right? It's displayed as a small tooltip. So VD export format PDF equals 17. So now we actually know what constant word is using as the VD export format PDF. All of the rest of them, open after export equals true, optimize for VD export or whatever they all are named.